Hello and welcome to the Established Self-Love Summit. I am your host, Trisha Reed. The Established Self-Love Summit is an open dialogue presenting ideas on the exploration of nurturing self-love and all the ways we could be blocking the love we so inherently crave. I look forward to exploring this with you further. Today's guest is Reverend Dr. Louise Diana. Welcome, everyone, to the Established Self-Love Summit. And today with us, we have Reverend Dr. Louise Diana. My name is Trisha Reed, and I am your host. So, hello, Doctor. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm great, Trisha. Just so your audience can identify me. It's a long name. I have a long name, Reverend Dr. Louise Diana, but most of my students just call me Reverend Doctor. I don't even think that they know I have a real name. I think they think I just came out of the birth canal with Reverend Doctor, but I do have a name, and it is Louise Diana. So it's wonderful to be with you, and especially now, this subject is so relevant to the world, and we're going to talk a lot about self-love and what that looks like and what that feels like, and more important, maybe some steps for people to really embrace how to do that. How do you love yourself, and where do you begin? So when I start talking about something, with your permission, I'd like to just take a moment and settle in. And if we could just, go into a little prayer consciousness and take a deep breath together. So let's begin together, you and I, Trisha. Take a deep breath and just let it go. And again, inhale and exhale. Just let it go. One more time. Inhale. And just let it go. So we're just going to all settle down, and where you happen to be taping this during an afternoon, but if you're listening to this in the morning or the evening, it really makes no difference. Just try to get yourself to be present to where you are right now, in this moment, just in this moment. So we just stop the world of effects, this little spinning planet that we live on, and we just settle in. We just pause, we reflect for a moment, we do a little scan of our own personal body. We take a quick glimpse into the chatter of our mind, and we just stop and pause. And so I know in this moment, there's only one thing going on, and that is perfect peace, perfect wholeness, perfect health, joy, love, abundance in all things. So I just set the tone for our time together, this talk on self-love. And I know that there are those of you who are listening to it. If you can walk away from this conversation with at least one or two doable things that you can do in your life, I will feel as if this prayer has been heard. So I know it's already happening. I know you've already plugged in, and I just let this go out into that magical law, the universe, that part of the world that we just don't even really understand. We just let it go. We just release it, and it comes back to us multiplied in ways that our human self can't even imagine. The tone is set. I ask Trisha to join me by simply saying, and so it is.
And so it is.
And so we are.
And so we are.
And so I am.
And so I am.
Amen.
Amen.
All right. Let me shut the phone down, because this has a tendency to get in the way when I'm praying. Don't interrupt me.
Yes, exactly.
So where do we begin?
So tell us, you already told us your name, your birth name, but tell us what role you get to play in life right now, because we reached out to you because of the Self-Love Summit, and it's such a yummy topic, but I know you're doing a lot for others. So explain to our audience what it is you get to do and why we reached out.
Yeah, Good. Well, here's, my beginning started when I was actually a young girl, and my way in, my first way in, which has become a lot of people's way in, but I started this work a long time ago. This is very humbling what I'm about to say. I've been teaching yoga and meditation for 40 years.
Wow.
So at my awakening 40 years ago, I don't know how awake I was, but I yearned for it. And what I was really yearning for from the perch that I'm sitting at now and can really see was a, uh, a sense of self-acceptance. And I didn't quite know what that was going to look like, but I found my way to the mat as a young person. And my way of beginning that inquiry was about working through my body. That was the available piece for me. And as a lot of people begin to discover, the body holds a lot of messages from our life, not just this life, but past lives as well. And when you're beginning that search for self-acceptance and self-love, and you can't perhaps intellectualize it, but you can move into it, you can breathe into it. And I was very lucky. I had some wonderful teachers, which I'm a big purveyor of. If you find the right teacher, you can learn anything. I've had to take physics classes over the course of my academic career. And trust me, that's nothing I really ever really loved. But I always had a good teacher. So it made those classes very, very bearable. And I learned a lot, and kicking and screaming, but I learned a lot. So to answer your question, it was in the beginning for me, it was through yoga. And of course, once you begin a yoga practice, the sister path to that would be meditating. And great yogis of the past, and I've had some remarkable yoga and meditation teachers over the years, they've always said, that the reason to meditate, the reason to do yoga is so that you can be still enough just to listen and meditate. Now, I would alter that perception, because the beauty of your yoga practice also begins to teach you about self-acceptance in your body, which has become a huge issue in our time. We have health conditions in terms of modern life, if you will, that has a huge part of the population quite ill, diabetes, high blood pressure, being overweight. And all of those issues, I believe, holistically can be handled once you hit the mat. Not everybody is meant to be a size 1 like I am. Everybody has their own body, but everybody can get that body in its best order, so you could at least listen to it.
Yeah.
And that listening begins that engagement of loving yourself. And I'm going to give your viewers an exercise that I have taught over the years. It's called the Golden Mirror exercise. And it's very humbling. It's extremely humbling, and I invite everybody to do this. You got to take off all your clothes, and you got to stand in front of a full-length mirror, and you've got to look at yourself and see who you are. You got to see what you got. And then you begin from the crown of your head, which is your, that marvelous key spot to spirit, and you go down through your body. And you start with your hair, and then you start with your eyes and your nose, and you're looking right into your own eyes when you're doing this. And you just go down your body and you tell your body how much you love it. And you may get stuck in a few places. You may get stuck, and just be there, be in that stuckness, and just hang out in that space. And in spite of yourself, just keep telling that body part how much you love it. And go down and scan your whole body. It's a very humbling experience, and it's a very confronting experience, but it's a good beginning.
What do you see come up for people as they go through that?
They do get stuck. We all get stuck on our body parts. And I'm always of the school that, a body part has a significant connection to a feeling or into an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get stuck around your hip area, you're kind of in your anger zone. You're kind of, you got a lot of anger I still got to work through. So when I'm in my yoga class, maybe I could put a little bit more attention on these hip joints and keep telling these hips how much I love them and how willing I am to let go of the anger. And that's a beginning. And then, of course, the next layer is to try to figure out why you're so angry. Mm-hmm. And who you're angry to. Because it's, layering and layering and layering and layering. And that's all a good beginning. You roll out your mat. You don't judge yourself whether you're good enough. Don't get seduced by seeing, all these fancy yoga poses that you see, and just hit the mat. And then in some fashion, you begin a meditation practice, which I'll go into as we continue. So that's a good beginning. And then you do the golden mirror exercise and go through your body and identify those parts of your body that you're still working with. Also, which is incredibly important, people have dealt with a lot of trauma in their body. Yeah. Over the years, people have remarkable stories about what has happened to them, abuse and pain, and just the emergence of very, very serious, significant issues. And there's a sense of bravery that it takes to go in and do the work so you can get to the good stuff. And the good stuff is the love stuff.
Yeah.
You gotta do the work to get there. You can't get that without doing the work.
Yeah. So how did you become so passionate about doing the work?
It's really funny you should ask me that, because you can see behind me, I'm in my office. Mm-hmm. This is a working office. I work in. One of the things that I've been doing in the last few weeks is going through all of my materials that I've written over the years, and going through conferences I've given and seminars I've taught. And I'm doing a little bit of a slash and burn and getting rid of things and keeping things, because I'm going to write another book. So I'm doing some research. And what I'm really, really loving, Tricia, is that I've been saying the same thing for the last 40 years.
It's not changing, girl. It's still the same answer.
Nothing's changed. It's like the message is the same.
Yeah.
And I think, to answer your question, I think I've just had a curiosity from the beginning about why I was here. Why I was here. What was my purpose? What was I doing here?
Yeah.
I was on the acting track in my early 20s, and I'm from New York, and I was in the theater, and I'm now in Southern California, in Santa Monica, California, and I took another turn. As many people do, we all go through our changes,
Yeah.
and I had been in show business for about 10 years, and I had been teaching yoga on the side, and I made a real commitment to let go of one thing and really devote my life to my spiritual path. And trust me, I was young enough when my parents were still monitoring me a bit and checking me out and questioning me, and they were very nervous. They had no idea what I was talking about until they actually saw me on TV teaching, and that kind of gave them a little credibility that could be a profession for their daughter. But I think it was just my own internal personal interest to know my reason for being here, which I have no exclusivity to. I believe all of us have come here for something.
Yes.
And the biggest challenge for people in the work that I do when I'm coaching people
Mm-hmm.
is to really identify what it is that they want to do. What is it that they want to do in the world? And I think people have an inherent interest in really wanting to make a difference.
Yes.
Also,
Yeah, a
oh,
difference for
they
sure.
want to do something, especially the world that we're living in now.
Right. Right.
People really want to be present and they want to serve on some level. But having said that, I think before you serve in a big way, um, work on yourself first and foremost,
Yeah.
because you've got to clear your own house out.
Right.
You've got to take care of yourself. And then once that has been handled, and by the way, it never ends completely because there's always new levels to keep growing to. But once you've done all the foundational work on yourself, which is pretty much the same for all of us,
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of cleaning up the past.
How would somebody know what the foundational work looks like and know when they can take it to that next level, though?
Well, it always helps to have a good guide.
Ah, go there, go there.
Yeah, because the mind that has created the life that you're living sees it from a certain lens, which is legitimate.
Yeah,
It's your experience.
right.
So if you do your due diligence and find that person who morally and ethically is on the same page with you, because those are very important things, uh, but has a different view on it. If you could think of that as a guide to reawaken something in yourself that either A, you already know,
Mm-hmm.
or two, you're being exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So like anything in life, you go and you find those guides who speak to your heart.
Yeah.
I have several coaching clients who use me as that sounding board to make some very intense decisions in their life.
Mm.
Not that they're not perfectly capable of making a decision on their own,
Right.
but they want to bounce one thing off of another, and we just break it down into pieces so that they could make the best decision for themselves.
Yeah. So are you coaching with men and women or just women, or what's that like for you?
Well, that's really an interesting question, because mostly women rise to the occasion to do this work. You know that.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course
Yeah.
you know that.
But dig in
And
there. But dig into that one. Why is that? What is it you see? I have my own view.
because I think women are stronger, more powerful
I think
gender.
because we
And I,
create life, we nurture life, you
that's
know?
right.
That's what I see.
That's right. And by the way, I love men, and I have a lot of men clients. I love men. I always joke around and I say there's three things that I've been obsessed about in my life is number one, my relationship with God. Number two, my yoga mat and meditating, and three, men. Those have been my three
They bring
main
me a lot of joy.
subjects that I've dealt with in my life, which has been a lot of fun, mind you, a lot of fun. Um, and continues to be, by the way. Um, uh, but not to digress, I think, like I'm completely lost now. Oh, women,
Yeah,
women.
women.
Women step up to the plate, and they are the nurturers, they are the caretakers, and you bring the energetic back into your men.
Right.
You bring it to the men, and the smart men, they take it. They
They're
go, okay,
open. They're
I got it.
receptive.
I
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Now, I personally have focused, for the last 10 years, I've been running women's circles because we get good work done in the women's circles. We just get down to business.
Right.
We have a good time, but it's deep. And you get down to business and you take care of things. And I've had such a remarkable success with the women that I've worked with that there have been men who have asked me, would you do a men's circle? And so I'm considering to do that
Oh,
because
you're
I think,
inspiring.
yeah,
It's so
and I think,
inspiring.
and I think men, I think the time is right for men now to
Yes.
to allow that part of themselves to
Right.
really be opened up and balance it out with all that other societal
Yeah.
expectations.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. I think we're all redefining male and female and what that's
Yes.
supposed to be and what that's supposed to look like. I'm of the school that you bring what you got to a relationship.
Yeah.
And one person does something better than the other, and it makes no difference whether it's the guy or the girl,
Right.
whoever does it best, you do that. And
Yeah.
then the other person does the other part of it.
Right.
And you just kind of work it out so that two people are getting their needs met and are happy. It's
Right.
really simple.
Right. Yeah.
It's really simple. It's nothing more complex than that. But people get very assigned to their roles.
Yeah.
But we're seeing that all explode too in terms of the just the legitimacy of same-sex marriages and the legitimacy of people just not identifying as anything anymore.
Mm.
So you've got so many variations of what male and female is. But to go back to your question, it's usually women. And for me, the kind of women that I normally attract to me are women who kind of are on the path and moving along, and they're ready to have an explosion of something deeper.
Mm.
And I hope that I can put together a men's circle too, to share all the good news with the guys and get
Yeah.
them going.
Well, it sounds like life's inviting you to create that right now. And so that's that feminine energy that we were just talking about. We're
Yes,
creators
yes,
in a different way that's positive and nurturing life. And I feel that based on the stress that's going on all around us and the demographic you're already working with the females who are already on their path for change, it's just dropping a pebble and seeing the ripple effects of people choosing. And so if men are coming and are interested, or their women are saying you should really consider, exploring this a little bit more with Reverend Doctor, let's be real, that is so um, it's just expansive. It doesn't matter if it's male or female.
and it's more inclusive in what the
Yes.
world is requiring of us now.
Yeah. So
You know,
let's go.
we're all needed to really step our game up now. The world is changing so dramatically every day
Right.
that you have to have all cylinders are up. There's no more holding back for a rainy day. The rainy day is here. I want to say something though that I think is
Sure.
really important, if you don't mind,
Oh, please.
because it's really important in terms of this self-love subject that we're talking about. And after we scan ourselves and begin that process, to start thinking about who you want to forgive and where that will take you. And it's important in loving yourself to forgive yourself. If I was to ask everybody who is listening to this, have you ever made a mistake in your life? I could see a lot of heads
Yes.
going up and down.
Yes.
And then my next question would be, and how long have you been holding on to that? We'd get a
Yes.
variety of answers now, wouldn't we?
So there's a funny spin on that. You know, the idea of placing ourselves first so that we can love ourselves. And what you're saying right here is placing ourselves first so we actually stop ourselves from loving ourselves. You know, we have that inner critic that you're talking about, not even allowing the compassion or the self-love to start to develop. So I think it's interesting that placing ourselves first in a positive, yummy self-love way, instead of placing ourselves first and going, I can't do that, I shouldn't do that, I'm not going to do that. That's a very selfish thought process, more selfish than, you know, because self-love isn't about narcissism. It's not about falling in love with the external.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
and it takes a while to get that because our programming has exactly what you said. Our programming has been is if you put yourself first, that's rather selfish.
Could
And
be.
quite the contrary
Yeah.
is you just use the analogy from the airplane. If you're going down and you need that oxygen, you are guided to put the oxygen on yourself so that you can save other people. Yeah, it's not selfish at all. I think it's how you manage it that you may have to look at.
Right.
Because remember, we're in relationship with everything and everyone all the time. So it's you invite other people into that so that they rise up also and they love themselves by putting themselves first too. So you've got two pedestals, two people uplifting, and then you uplift each other. But it has to start with yourself first.
Right.
And forgiveness is just an enormous issue. And there's so many levels to forgiveness. Let me see what I kind of wrote
Yeah.
down. I wrote this kind of at 2:00 in the morning one day, have I put anyone out of my heart today? Think about that. Was there somebody that's come into your heart and it's a reason they've come into your heart and you've dismissed them on some level? Maybe because they did something to you 20 years ago or 10 years ago, 5 days ago. What about confronting it and dealing with it? Now, I personally, if I'm in a moment and having a moment and something's gone off the rails, I'm just immediately in cleanup mode.
What does that cleanup mode look like for you? Narrate that. I think everyone needs to understand they all get to have their own version of that.
Yes,
And I'm
yes,
guessing you've collected a lot of resources to piece together what that looks like for you.
yes. I think it's just being very present
Mm-hmm.
and listening to what's good. It's part of good communication, listening to what's being said and checking in with yourself and seeing what you're being reactive to. And rather than taking that reaction and stuffing it back in, which is what most people do, and they stuff it in on many, many levels now, right?
Yes.
You have a variety of choice: alcohol, cigarettes, sugar, drugs, just a variety of things, food, just a lot of things to just stuff all
Yeah.
of that resentment in. Well, how about in that moment, just really being where you are, just being with it? Something's come at you, and it doesn't feel good. It's something that's triggering something in you, and noticing how you're feeling and what you're reacting to. And if that moment in that moment is not the moment, then you make sure you set a time to go back to that moment with that person or an event, or you could put it in any circumstance, with a parent or a child, or your partner, or a business colleague, or
Right.
your boss.
Just
You know,
table it for later, but think
that's
on it
right.
before you
That's right.
react. So that word you mentioned, the act versus the
Yes.
react, that
Yes.
avoids the reaction there.
And then you have to get an agreement with the person who I will get back to you on this,
Yes.
so that it's complete. That moment is complete,
Yes.
as opposed to stuffing it in and then not acknowledging it. And that could go on for quite a while,
Right.
or just never dealing with it.
Yeah.
And that is the antithesis of self-love. That is just not taking care of yourself.
Yeah. How does self-love show up in the process of loving others? What do you see there?
Oh, selfless service. Wow. 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 Well, there's a lot of different ways. And the world is spinning so dramatically right now, historically, that you're seeing both sides. You're seeing all this anger and fear and worry and doubt and lack and limitation in the world, all of that variety just kind of spinning around. And then you're seeing the light workers, who I'm assuming is on this summit calls. The light workers are over here fervishly going out literally into the streets and taking a broom and sweeping things up,
Yes.
because that's what you do. That's selfless service. In yoga, it's called bhakti yoga, where you give service.
Yes.
But service comes every day of our life now, where we don't have to set aside a specific time. Traditional ways of doing that is when people volunteer, or through their church or synagogue or mosque, they do service in that sense. But we're all being stepped up to do service now.
Yeah.
And however you do it is bring it into your office and do service.
Yeah.
Do you be that person who starts a meditation class? You could do it in a variety of ways, but what service is giving of yourself on the highest and best level of who you are.
Yeah.
It's just that part of you that wants to literally give. I spent some time in India, and the first time I ever saw this act of selfless service, I was very moved. Um, there is a spiritual teacher called the Mother, and it her birthday and my birthday, February 21st, was on the same day that I was in her little town, Pondicherry, India. And it was like this major event. This is India, so thousands and thousands of people were coming to pay homage to this woman. And I felt particularly honored because it was my birthday too. So it was like, yes, really special day. But then when I went to the temple, people were in line, thousands and thousands of people just waiting to be in her presence. And what they were doing is going up to her, and she was a very diminutive woman like myself, and sitting on this little throne. And people were coming up to her and washing her feet.
Oh, wow. Wow. The ultimate expression of serving another.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was so humbling. It was so humbling
Beautiful.
to, and when my turn came, it was, we talk in the spiritual world about having numinous moments in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say those numinous moments usually happen when you're in a high state of meditation, or if you're in nature and you're out in the world and you're having, just a great adventure out in nature and climbing mountains and jumping in the ocean and doing all that wonderful stuff we love to do, and having sex. Those are the three things usually that get you into that numinous moment. And washing her feet was a numinous moment for me. I took that energy and brought it back into my life. That's what we're meant to do for each other.
Yeah.
We're meant to, the metaphor, wash each other's feet. We're meant to be kind and generous and loving and supportive. That is exactly what we're meant to do. Male, female, it makes no difference, but
Right.
we're meant to bring our A game, our highest self to each other. Now, look, life is complicated.
Oh, yeah.
We all have very busy lives, and the circumstances that we find ourselves in right now, in terms of the pandemic, and in terms of race riots going on, and just the gestalt of everything that is happening in the world right now. We are living a moment in history right now that is changing the whole field of energy. Now, I really believe that everything that is taking place had to happen. And it's awful, the things that I'm seeing, just awful. But it's also enlightening, because this is exactly what needed to happen.
Yeah.
You can only push things so far until they explode. And we're living in the explosion right now. So if you're listening to this right now, the time is perfect for everything that we're talking about.
Yes.
Perfect. No matter what your circumstances are. It doesn't make any difference what's going on. It's perfect. And you have a choice. You have a choice to linger in this very dark, very real, tangible space that we're all living through, or you can move towards the light.
Yeah.
And
Finding the
you could be,
wisdom.
what's that?
Finding the wisdom in it. Finding the gift
Finding
of
the wisdom.
wisdom. Yeah.
That's right. And
Yeah.
going and going towards the light.
Right.
And there's so many different paths that you could choose to do that.
Yeah.
So my hit is, be present, love yourself, forgive yourself, and just clear the way.
You know what I love when you talk about go towards the light? I imagine the yin and yang, the dark and the light, the opposition. I mean, there has to be opposition. Otherwise, without the darkness, how do you see the light? Without what's considered good, how do you see bad? And when I think of the magnitude of everything we're living in right now, and how challenging and difficult it is, we're all developing more resilience through this. And the practices that you're talking about implementing personally in your own life, and those same practices that you're teaching others to implement in their lives, you can't take you can't grab at the resources unless you need them, right? And so if we're not
Yes.
going through challenging times, how else would we know that we needed these tools, right? And if we think of the most challenging times in history, some of the most beautiful research medically has taken place, in particular in World War II. Some of the most tragic things happened. However, we advanced so quickly worldwide through that tragic experience. And I just have such high hopes that every bit of wisdom and love and goodness that we can possibly glean from this scary time, that we can all just step back and go, what is the wisdom here? What can we learn? How can we all grow? How can we all love each other and support each other? And the things that you're referring to, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. 40 years. I'm only 42. So you've really been doing this a lot longer than I have.
Oh, even just a little spark. You're just a little spark.
I'm just a baby in this. I'm just a baby in this. But what I do know is that I can't control life energy. I can just hold on to it and say, what's next? What do we need to do next? So what is it you feel like life is guiding you to share with everyone right now? Because, you and I can laugh about this, but we had some frustrating times getting to this today.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, that's a good question. I think, for me, I've been kind of the last few months of when I was teaching, I'm teaching online now, but when I was still with people, the olden days, like 4 months ago, um, I kept on saying, that change is coming, change is coming. And I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen. That's my real honest answer. But I know I'm on the side of history that there's so many people now who are waking up, or as the kids call it, who are woke. People are just waking up. Just people are waking up in their own way, in their own fashion. Uh, People want to be healthy. They want to live a long, healthy life. Uh, I saw something great on the internet the other day. People just want to pay their goddamn bills and have a little love in their life.
yeah.
And I said, amen to that. People just want to feel good about their lives. I think we're going to do a lot of reevaluating about our priorities. We've had a real consumer um, uh, economy. And as I keep clearing out things in my own life, material things, paper things, whatever, I don't think that we need as much anymore. You're a gal, you know what I'm talking about. Go
Yep.
into your closet.
Yep.
I don't know about you. I got 4 closets of clothing. So I've worn all those clothes at different stages of my life. Got some fabulous clothes here. Anybody of your size 3, reach out to me, because they're not coming on me anymore. How many pairs of jeans do you really wear all the time? I have like 2 pairs of jeans that I wear like all the time. Everything else is just like filler. They're going, and I will hesitate with what I bring in. I think young people who travel a lot are not into materialism. I think they're much less consumer driven, which I think is a really good thing. I personally want to be just a little bit lighter in my footprint. I'm very concerned about the environment. And if I love myself, I want to be able to love the environment I live in. I live 5 blocks from the beach here, and I want to have that beach still here for the next generation. I live close to the Santa Monica Mountains that I hike in all the time. I want those mountains to stay clean. I don't want there, I want there to be, parks and recreation areas open for people to enjoy. So my focus is going to go kind of in that direction, I believe, after all of this. But I just continue to do everything that I do. And I guess probably after this, a new book will emerge, and I hope I can be with people again and engage with people, because I personally love social engagement.
Yeah.
I love groups of people together.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that people are awakening up to now also is people have a point of view, they want to be heard. Conversation, the art of conversation may come back.
Right.
People literally conversing with one another. Language.
Correct.
I've read a lot of, I'm a reader, I read a lot of books, but I've read a lot during this pandemic.
So what's
And
inspired you?
I beg your pardon?
Yeah. So what's inspired you? Like, how are you choosing? Because I know what I'm choosing during this time. I'm carefully choosing what I'm choosing to read, very carefully.
Yes, of course. And then if you're choosing books that you read, or you're choosing entertainment that you see, anything that's going to project a feeling or an emotion, be the steward of what you consume.
Yes.
So, for example, I know I do not want to watch violent movies anymore.
Yeah.
Bam,
Yep. Gone. Done. Haven't done those
done.
for a long time. Yeah.
I don't want to watch violent movies anymore. I appreciate the art that goes into some of those movies. I don't want that in my headspace.
Yep.
I want to be the steward of things that support the thoughts that I think and or challenge that.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing a violent movie is not going to challenge my sense of violence. I just think violence is not the way to best express yourself.
Yeah.
Across the board. We were watching a movie, a couple of weeks ago, and there was a scene in it, and the guy punched another guy, and then he kept punching him and punching him and punching him. I said, wait a minute. I don't want to, I don't need to see this. This is not what I need to fill myself with. This is not going to do anything and uplift me and feel inspired, appreciated, needed, or loved. Oh no. And we stopped.
Right.
So the small things, these are small things that we can do. Be the consumer of what you take into your mind, and of course your soul as a result of that.
Yeah. It affects our biology.
Yes.
Everything we listen to, everything we eat, everything we breathe. So every movie that evokes energy in our body, if something's scary or happy or sad, it evokes that energy in our body. And the research behind post-traumatic stress disorders shows that if somebody's biology is off that day and they watch a scary, tragic movie, they can start to bring that energy in almost as if that situation happened for them. So when I heard that little bit of research, I went, oh, I don't want to put any old anything in my brain, because then it produces the chemicals. My body thinks that situation happened to me. I want to be very careful about what my body thinks is my reality personally.
Yes.
You know?
And that's the basis of hypnosis, by the way, is whatever you believe is going to be your reality.
Right.
So we have so many unconscious beliefs that we have, that let's start clearing those out before we start filling it in with things that we really don't want to carry with us.
So where will this whole situation in the last 5 months lead your next book, and how will that be different from your last book?
Oh, I'm not there yet. I don't know.
No?
I can't answer that.
Then tell us about your last book.
I'm just not there yet. My last
Yeah.
book was on affirmations, and it's a sweet little book. It's just, affirmations for situations that you find yourself in, and it's the situations that we all find ourselves in. So that book had its place for that time. I'm not sure. I really don't know, and I'm a person that likes to know. I like to know why I'm doing something, and I'm just kind of wanting to be a little bit more in this unknown space.
Yeah.
And just stay connected with spirit, and see where spirit kind of guides me and what message that I need to say, maybe in a little bit of a different way than anybody else has said it, or just to remind people what it is that they need to hear. You know, we have a tendency, all of us, to people who think alike. We're all at a cross current of thought because we're all on the same brainwave.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't formulated yet what it is. I haven't formulated the delivery of it yet.
Yeah.
I'm still in the gestation process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the summertime that hopefully we'll all be able to be out and enjoy, which I kind of have been. I'm an outdoor girl, so I've been going outside and climbing in mountains and doing all that kind of stuff. It'll come very easily. And I invite everybody else, if you're going to come out of this and you're in the unknown, just let yourself be there. Just let yourself be in that space, and don't push it. Just, let it birth of itself, whether it's a new relationship or a new job, or you want to redo your body, or whatever it may be for yourself. But don't focus on the outer, focus on the inner, because this is it. This is what it all is. Everything else is just kind of like a little bit of a distraction.
Yes.
To keep us very busy.
Yes. Yes.
And if we've learned anything from our culture, we've all been way too busy to pay attention.
So talk about that. Talk about the busy and the stress, and how is that blocking us from paying attention?
Yeah, I think about, but well, where are you? Where are you?
I'm
You're
in
a
San
Cali
Diego.
girl?
I'm in
You're
San
a San
Diego.
Diego girl. So, well, we have a lot of traffic up here.
Yeah.
And San Diego has its traffic too, but I don't think anything as crazy as LA.
I avoid LA.
LA is just really crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm a woman out in the town. I do a lot of things, and I think of all the time that I have saved being on the road. Now, if you happen to be listening to this and you live in rural America somewhere, or you're living somewhere on a remote island, well, good for you.
They just won't be doing their shadow work that's wrapped up in traffic issues. That's all I see. They'll do their shadow work another way.
You'll do it another way. But traffic is a real leveler if you live in a big city. Whether it's New York, LA, San Francisco, Chicago, the big cities that have a lot of car population and pollution, I might add. So we're all redefining time. There's a lot of people who are working at home now. I flipped very early in the game and took my yoga classes online. I'm digging it. I'm really loving it. And I do my coaching clients online as well now. So time has changed for me and how I use my time. I've always been a good time management person, but now is wonderful.
Yeah.
I have more time to meditate.
Isn't it awesome? I meditate more now.
Right?
Sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. I'm like, wow, I get to sit and pause again.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. The other day, I walked from my house. I have to really qualify this. I moved really fast. I walked from my house in Santa Monica to Malibu. And I would have gone further, except the path that I was walking kind of blocked off. And it was about 6 miles. And I was like a woman in a mission. And then when I got to the destination, there was a little spot I found. Just this little spot. And there was nobody around. It was just me. And I said, oh, there it is. There it is. There's my spot. And I sat down and I meditated for 45 minutes, and I was in sheer bliss. Bliss. And then, of course, I had to turn around and go back. Now, in my quote, former life, I just wouldn't have had the time to do all that.
Yeah.
To do the walk in that way that I was doing it, and then to stop for 45 minutes whew, before I turned around to come back. It was this delicious block of time I gave myself just to be outdoors, to be with myself, my thoughts. No music, no headphones, just me, my body, and my thoughts, and to just watch my mind, just to see where I was going, see what it was going to be like. In my former life, I just wouldn't have had time for it. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't have done it, but I would have been in a rush to get back, because then I would have had a client to see, and then I would have, this was like an open end, and at the other end, it was, babe, when you get here, you get here.
Yes.
Which kind of was great too. It was just no pressure. It was just this beautiful stretch of time. And that is a gift. And everybody on some level is being given, even if it's really rough right now, even if it's really tough, you're being given a gift of some sort.
Yes.
To emerge from this with something.
With dignity. With dignity, with respect for self, with compassion for self, because compassion for self means we can have compassion for others. And if we don't have self-love based off of compassion for self, how can we possibly show up being that best version of ourselves? And so when you're talking about taking that time, and you're talking about being with your own thoughts and seeing what thoughts come up, the idea that we don't have to be on the go quite like we used to. For me, I'm hearing that even compassion for those thoughts that I need to be doing something else. What am I going to do next? What's happening next?
Which is very legitimate, by the way.
It is, but it may not be as necessary to continue doing that default mode of being busy, busy, busy. And that pause that you're referring to, and just taking that time, that's a gift. Yes, you don't get to go fall into all the structure that you had previously, but what a gift of time and processing.
A real gift. And also, just an addendum to that is I've had some moments where, I've just cracked, crying. Whew. Just, I'm not talking pretty girl.
Oh no,
crying.
like
I'm not talking just not that kind of crying. I'm talking about like real heaving kind of, not quite snot coming out, but borderline.
What do you see
and
happening?
Just kind of heaving sobs, just for humanity.
Yes.
Humanity, just humanity. That's the only thing I can, the word that I could use. Just, and giving myself over to it, and really crying and letting go of whatever was stuck that I didn't even know was stuck.
Oh, aren't you glad it's not stuck anywhere? You're letting it go through you.
Yes, also, and I want to add, you don't always have to identify what it is.
Right.
I mean, if you do, I'm a kind of a person that likes to identify things, so I can put it like in an area that I know I'm handling that.
Yeah.
I got that checked, right? But I'm lightening up on myself a little bit. Sometimes it's not necessary to even know.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's like, oh, humanity. How did we arrive at this point?
Right.
And it's okay. And just let it go, let it out, release it. And if anybody needs any help with that, I can help you with that.
Yeah. So guide us there. Guide us there. So
Well, you
tell
just,
our
you,
audience.
first of all, you got to be in a safe space. Always have to be in a safe space. And oh God, I wasn't going to go there, but I guess it's important to do that. You got to take stock of who's in your life. You know,
Yeah.
at
Who
some
you're
point,
aligning with,
yeah,
you mean?
yeah, at some point in your life, you've got to do that.
Yeah.
So I guess why not this moment? Just
Right.
throw one more thing in.
Yeah.
Just hang on for a second. The light is changing in my room, and I don't want to kind of. There we go. You have to take stock of who you're with in your life at some point, and if and loving yourself is when you start loving yourself, you're going to draw people to who are loving you in the right way.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
not saying you haven't been loved before, but I'm saying in the right way. And then you got to identify what that way is for yourself. And if it's important enough to say, I am with the person or the situation that makes me feel comfortable and makes me feel safe enough to let down my guard.
Well, how can we decide? Because I see two different things happening here when you're talking about that. You're talking about identifying with what makes you feel safe, and when you say that, it makes me question, what patterns are we going to go back to once we are out of this way of living? Who are we going to be drawn back to? And how can you, because this is what you do regularly, guide others into identifying what no longer serves them? How do you gently guide your clients, your audience, in identifying those patterns that were comfortable, but they were dysfunctionally comfortable previously? And now moving forward, we get to really reassess what our priorities are, including how we make ourselves feel based on who we're choosing to align with. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. And it's a good question because it goes right back to your heart again. What did I say earlier? Have I put anyone out of my heart today? Have I put anybody in my heart today?
Yes.
If somebody is, this tangible of what love is, just in general,
Yeah.
we all know when we are in a loving space. Because a loving space makes you feel safe and secure. When you're not feeling that and you're in worry about it, then it probably is not the space that you can fall apart in. Now, look, people are married for a long time, they've got long relationships. You go through cycles where it's such a very complex, one size fits all issue. But we all know what a loving relationship looks like. And if you don't know, then that's part of the work that you do. Because I've heard from younger clients of mine, younger students who have said, well, he's such and such a this or she's such and such a that, but, and you got to look at the buts. If it doesn't feel like it's a loving relationship, then it's probably not.
Right.
So it goes to your values. And if you haven't defined what your values are going to be, in going into an intimate, loving relationship, then it means you've got to go back in time and look at your parents' history and look at your own personal history and see where the correlation, and do all that work, what it is your belief system is about relationships.
Yeah.
And that's not easy.
No.
I taught this one women's circle based on a book called Calling in the One. And the nature of the course was for women to find out how they could find their perfect mate. By the way, I married 5 people out of those courses. They found their perfect partner, and I had a chance to marry them.
Wow.
I'm so proud.
Wow.
But on a more significant level, even if you didn't meet your perfect partner yet, you will. But that's not even the point. The point is the course was about understanding your own history.
Yeah.
And you got to understand your own history, not judging it,
Right.
not accusing your family or your parents of anything, but just understanding.
Yeah.
None of us came out of perfect families. And if you did,
Good job.
Rocker.
You're one of the lucky ones.
You're one of the lucky ones.
But
And none
to
of
be
us came out of,
fair,
but we all came out with some sort of a
yes.
pre-programmed idea of what relationships are. And if you have a different take on that, or you have grown exponentially to what it is that you thought relationships were, then you owe it to yourself to step it up, clean that up, those messages up, and then move forward, and then put yourself out there in a completely different way. But the transformation happens in yourself. And I'm assuming you believe in the law of attraction, yes?
Absolutely.
Of
But
course. So
there's
the
an and but
vibration,
to that. Like there's other layers to that when you say that.
of course, of course. But there's a vibration that we all live from, right? There's a vibration that and then we attract that vibration. And that's how it all begins. You know, you just vibrationally, you kind of are in tune, and then relationships and work. You just don't land and it's like, this is a done deal. Okay, found my guy, found my gal. All right, I'm ready to rock. Oh, no. I don't mean to say that at all. But you know, if you're in a loving relationship, by the way it makes you feel in your heart.
Yes.
And then if your heart is safe, then you can have those breakdown moments where, number one, you're not going to be judged.
Right.
But someone, and by the way, you could do this with really good friends. You know, this doesn't have to be a significant partner.
Yeah.
You know, I've done this with girlfriends over the years. You know, just you know, you're in this space and you feel safe enough where you're not going to be judged.
Yes.
And then you just kind of wipe yourself off and you just go back to life again. And it's just another experience. But whew, that was great. I got rid of all of that. But that comes when you do all the other work. And a lot of it is, you know, our childhood stuff.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people, you know, in their 60s and 70s who, you know, come in to do the work and they're still dealing. They never dealt with, let's put it that, they married, they have kids, they've got a great life. They're a success what they do, and they're still dealing with an old issue from their past.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's with a sibling or whether it's with a parent, they're still kind of working and processing through. And that has interfered in the current relationship they're currently living in.
So how do you guide others through that? Tell me about your process. If the audience was to contact you, where would they go to find you, and how would we help people see what it would look like to start a journey with you in that way?
Oh, where'd you go?
I'm still here.
You're
I can
still
see
there.
you.
Oh, all of a sudden, can you see me?
I can see you. We're fine.
Oh God, where did I go? It's like all of a sudden you disappeared from you just like completely disappeared from my screen. Holy moly. Wow. Oh, you just never know. Oh, gee, I don't know. All of a sudden I'm out. I don't know what happened. All right. Well, I can't see you, so I'm going to be just a disembodied voice.
Well, no, I can see your picture. It's okay. We can keep moving forward.
Yeah, we can keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So I can't see anything, so I'll just kind of be here now. But
okay.
Well, first of all, my website is innerfitness.com.
Okay.
Innerfitness.com. It's very simple. And in terms of my process, I wish I could tell you I had a specific process. What happens when I see a client is, well, first of all, they should always see whether I'm the person for them. Because I've never had anybody say I'm not, but I'm not saying that, you know, from a sense of ego, but I always want to give somebody an opportunity to see if there's some resonation, if there's something going on between us where that person is going to feel willing to feel that sense of safety I'm talking about and want to jump in and do the work. Because I get in there and I kind of feel like I'm an exorcist. I start pulling things out of people. Um,
I
and like
love
I
it.
said, it's not, it's all, the work that you do is serious, but also we have to keep it somewhat lighthearted. So there's
Yes.
kind of a medium that I find in doing that. What I'm offering to your viewers today before we sign off is they can go to a link that I know you're going to provide, and it's got a couple of my meditations on there that they can listen to. And I'm going to offer anybody who chooses to take one of my yoga or meditation classes. The first class will be on me. I'll buy it for you. And if you feel that I might be, the right guide for you, the right teacher for you, we can set up a Zoom call, and I can talk about my programs with you. And I'll do a one-on-one with you. Um, I also, for the women, the ladies who are listening, my next women's circle will be coming up probably at the end of this month or the beginning of July. It's a 4-month program, and it's pretty much going to be about emerging. What is emerging going to be like for you? And I have a little bit of the academic in me. I'm a PhD, so I kind of like to pull books out to use as a curriculum. We'll have some books that we'll be reading, but the circles are about conversation and interaction, and the women learning from each other as well as me, and that takes place. So I'll give your viewers a little bit of a discount on that if some of the
Thank
women
you.
want to step into that program.
Thank you.
And otherwise, just reach out. You give me an email, identify that you found me through this summit, and we can get to work so that when this is all over, the exterior of the world settles down for a minute, because the world is changing so rapidly. But for a minute, when you're really ready to emerge, you'll be really prepared. And my final thoughts on this is the time is now. Not
Yes.
just for you people who are listening or watching this, for all of us. Trisha, is that correct or
Oh,
not?
it's so correct. It's unbelievably correct.
Yeah.
There is so much changing right now. I look at life and the transition of what we're all going through, and it's just the invitation to learn and grow. But part of that is the grieving process, letting go of what is dead and honoring that these old ways, old systems are it's time to let go of them. And
Yes.
with different practices, for example, the ones that you offer, there is so much guidance and discernment as opposed to judgment. You step away from the judgment and you have discernment, so you can say this works, this does not, let's move that past. But there is also a grieving process and letting go of those old patterns that no longer serve us. And we really
Yes.
do need to honor that. We need to grieve that and the humanness of what we're going through, and honor that our reactions to everything that's going on, that is a part of being a human. But there's the yes and as you were referring to earlier, there's more to the process, and to hold space for ourselves and have that compassion and find a tribe of people, a like-minded group that can really hold space for us. And that's that community feel that you're providing, that you're offering. And you referring to other women in the group teaching and nurturing and loving together as a community, because that community helps us to love ourselves. So I really
Yes.
love what you're doing, and I appreciate that you accepted your invitation from life to do all of this. I'm so thankful for that.
Well, my pleasure. And I'm so glad that you did this summer. I can't see a look in your eyes because I seem to be floating somewhere
Oh, good.
on
You're
my end.
floating. Yes.
But but I know you're there. I know you're
I'm
out
here.
there.
I'm
So just,
here.
I'm so happy that we've been able to do this together,
Thank you.
despite some technical difficulties. But From my home to your home,
Thank you.
namaste.
Namaste. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Louise Diana. You're amazing. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Take
Thank
care.
you, everyone, for joining us for the Established Self Love Summit, and we will see you next time.